Of course, we have the excavator imports, which has skyrocketed to over 200 a day. And then we have the issue with our forest reserves. You talked about 9 of them being taken over completely by bandits and then reclaimed. And then, of course, they keep finding their ways back in there. So there is just an overwhelming buffet of evidence that the actual numbers tell us that the galamsey effects are worsening, not getting better.
And Kojo, you know why I asked that question, whether he's sure? Because Winston and I, yesterday, just about a 5-minute drive from a police checkpoint where the police interacted with us, we just see people mining by the roadside on the Axim Road. So my point is, if we put everything in place to check galamsey, right, then even these police officers should be taking some action, or somebody should be working. And the other reason why, Minister, I think that the government, the president, has not done everything he has to do to ensure we fight galamsey. I'll go back to the structure.
Sure.
You have the police structure, right? You have the military structure. You also have even the National Signals Bureau. Now, the president said those circulating fake news, we have the National Signals Bureau infrastructure to be able to track them. It's the same infrastructure that you can use to track people all over the country, people who are into galamsey. So we are not seeing an improvement, really. And we travel a lot. We are not seeing an improvement. We see the activities happening. A lot of the reports we see are from the forest areas. But now these days, even by the roadside, you see people doing it.
Well, first of all, let me handle the bit about the disparate efforts by various agencies. That's why we have the NIMOS. Yeah, and the president spoke to it. There was some concern a few weeks ago about the temporary halt in the activities of the police-led task force. The reason was that we were getting reports about some excesses and some work that was being done at cross purposes because the teams were not working together as a unit. So there was a need to bring some coordination in the effort so that you better monitor progress. You're able to deal with excess, because the last thing you want is for people to go out there and go on a frolic of their own on the back of this operation, because that creates its own difficulties.
What the president said was that they were actually shutting down.
Yes, in fact, we are even getting reports of extortions, and you don't want that. You don't want that. So you need to be able to better track what is up. That's why NIMOS. So NIMOS is the one-stop shop that all matters relating to galamsey is dealt with. They have the capacity, the equipment, the personnel to monitor what is happening. So that halt was very temporary. It was not intended to allow galamsey's free passage. So that must be placed on record. The second point is that, you see, improvement or the lack of it has to be empirical. You see, you have to have hard facts to back it. So could you, if on assumption of power, say in February, there were 9 forest reserves under the total control of armed bandits who were superintending galamsey, and now we've reclaimed that. That is a clear improvement. You cannot say that it has not improved. Turbidity levels are extremely worrying. That is why the river guards have been deployed. That is why there's an effort to decemicalize, to use some technology to reclaim or better improve the quality of the water. The excavator menace, you've raised concern about the excessive importation. That is something government has noticed. So you see that specific action has been put in place to check that. That is why today the excavators in military camps, ordinarily these excavators will find their way into forest reserves or riverbeds for the purposes of galamsey. That is no longer the case as we speak.
On the excavators in military camps last week, I personally went around
and you saw some of them, yes.
And I saw them being moved in. Absolutely. With the guys taking records and everything.
It was just to decongest the port because it had taken over too much space and containers were struggling for space. So that was all. So these are empirical facts. Nobody is under
turbidity levels.
Yes, but nobody
we have numbers there. Let's
so the turbidity levels. So the point is, I get, you see, you need to be able to show the physical activity of galamsey taking place at a particular point to be able to move in. So the turbidity levels may be worrying, no doubt about it. And certainly I don't want a situation where very close to the water source that I drink, there's some galamsey taking place. That is being dealt with. The water quality will improve over time. But I'm saying that in terms of those who's
worsening.
No, but those whose activities are leading to these deterioration in turbidity levels are being checked. They are being held in check through the processes and systems that I have outlined. So it will take a bit of time to be able to win the war overall. Nobody is under any delusion. Of course, I've heard people say that, in the past there were some members of the NDC who said, galamsey could be won over in a week or a month or so. The president,
Sam George.
yes, but the president didn't give any such timeline. You see, yes, Sam George is a prominent member of the NDC. He carries weight. What he says goes far, no doubt about it. But I think that, to be fair, if you want to assess a president, you take him by his own words, his own actions, the commitments that he made. President Mahama did not give any timeline to ending galamsey, and he said it at the media encounter. I think as a follow-up to in answer to your question, that he was not under any illusion that overnight, by the way, from Majengo and galamsey will end, because it is an insidious problem. You see, the allure of gold is powerful. Sometimes I have wondered why people would even put themselves in such a situation. The risk that they take, the pace that they go into that collapse and caving. But the allure of making money quickly through gold is powerful. It is one that takes effort to dissuade people from. So, in addition to all these measures to curb galamsey, there's also the Responsible Community Mining Project, which essentially hands over some disused mines by lawful mining companies to the youth, so that they can engage in responsible mining that is monitored, that does not affect the environment, and be able to make money decently, as opposed to going into this dangerous work of galamsey. So I think that we all need to establish, we need to be clear that even as we take steps to fight it, those who are engaged in it still find reason to go back. And some time ago I said that the galamsey fight has to be an eternal fight. It was taken out of context to mean that we will never win it, but we have to maintain eternal vigilance. That is why, as part of the efforts going forward, all those places that have been reclaimed, the soldiers and the security forces won't leave. They will set up permanent camps to ensure that people don't come. At least the 44 forest reserves that were endangered, and all the riverine areas of Ghana will have permanent security presence to ensure that people do not come back. And that will be rolled out in the coming days, actually. Yeah.